What's up guys, Bo here again. Howdy ho, and welcome to another Bojin vlog. It's the return of the impromptu light sources, although this time it might run out, but you know, it's a bit better than the previous ones that I've been using. You know, it's like 3:48 right now. It's like dark as shit right outside. But you know, who know, like this, we're just in the middle of winter, so like it's not really anything we can do about it. I just have to roll with it, right? But anyway, in today's entry, I wanted to kind of extend on the previous entry I did, which was about experiences of God, right? And just as a recap, in the previous entry, I talked about how, you know, life is kind of happening to us, right? There's not really anything that we can do to kind of exclude ourselves from life, right? A lot of us who are going into this journey of awakening, you could say, or like self-actualization journey, we kind of get into it based off of, you know, dissatisfaction that we feel in our lives. And so, you know, we go into this journey to understand, you know, why it is that our lives are shit, or whatever the case may be. And so, and we start to kind of gain all of this perspective around how life is, right? But then there comes a point where you hit a wall, right? And you like, it becomes more and more apparent that no matter how you, no matter the extent of your understanding, no matter how kind of enlightened you think you've become, you are still participating in, you know, in this physical life, right? No matter how much you try to kind of transcend like life's ups and downs, like you know, you will still be, you know, on that roller coaster of life. There's nothing you can really do about it. And so the kind of ultimate teaching, you could say, from a spiritual perspective, or just like the kind of secret to living, you know, a fulfilling life, is to own your experience. It is to, you know, really lose yourself in the experience of life and be like, okay, I feel shit right now. I feel shit, you know, and like really like kind of approaching life from that innocence of like, well, you know, this is what's happening to me, and I can throw as much rationalization as I want at it, but it's not going to change that fact. And for that, and by virtue of that, you know, I'm just going to like go with it, you know, and I'm just going to live life and see what happens, right? Another way of saying this is to be present, you know, that's another concept from the spiritual community. And so in this entry, I wanted to kind of extend on that by talking about kind of two ideas I'm going to chuck at you. The first of which is allowing yourself, right? And the terms, like this kind of concept of allowing yourself comes from Teal Swan. I kind of borrow a lot of her concepts, like her kind of terminology for like my videos. But yeah, so allowing yourself, what this means is it's kind of a lifestyle decision where you start to live a life that is, well, you start to kind of make decisions based on the way that you feel, right? I actually did an entry entitled Consult Your Feelings like a month or two or something like that ago, where I talk about this essentially. You know, in that video I talked about how there's a lot of advice, like from this kind of thing, you know, from videos and other sources like that, or just from other people, that basically like dictate to you like how you should live life and what's good for you and what's bad for you, right? And that's fine, you know, there's a lot of good advice out there and it all makes sense, but there's the danger, there's the pitfall of us basically becoming too aggressive with that kind of thing, and essentially like becoming being insensitive to our genuine emotional needs, and thus kind of getting into this kind of like, you could say negative feedback loop, like this kind of like this trap where it's like you follow the advice, it doesn't work to like the kind of, if like it doesn't have the kind of desired effect that you were expecting, and you start like hating yourself because you rebound, you know, the behavior kind of sticks around, the addictive behavior or the self-destructive behavior, whatever. You know, the habit doesn't change, and you're like, fuck, it didn't work, and you beat yourself up about it, right? And you're clueless as to why it's not working. Well, it's because of like this ungrounded, like over-aggressive approach to like trying to change yourself, right? And in that video, Consult Your Feelings, I talked about how it's important to actually stop and consult your feelings, because those feelings are an indication of your genuine needs in the moment, and those change, right? Just because advice has been proven to work doesn't mean that it's necessarily the best thing for you in this exact moment, right? And then there's all of this funny business surrounding like what's actually good and bad for you, and you know, subjective morality, which is something that I talked about as well in previous entries. But that was the gist of that video, and you know, moving on, kind of the so allowing yourself is a paradigm in which you basically make decisions in your, you know, day-to-day life based on how you truly feel, right? And straight away, it's like, I'm telling you, you know, it's where you make decisions based on what you want. It's like, well, that sounds fucking complicated, right? But the irony is, right, like, even though that sounds like kind of silly to say that, you know, like doing things that you want, it's actually ironically really difficult to do that in today's society, because people are insensitive to energy. People actually don't know what they genuinely want, right? They may learn, you know, they may kind of try to appear that way, or like try and convince you that, you know, that's the case. But the truth is that the majority of people, they don't actually know what they really want out of life, because they're insensitive to energy. You know, your desires come from your emotional, you know, your emotions indicate your desire, your feeling. And so you need to be in touch with your feelings, you need to be in touch with your sensitivity in order to know what you truly want in the moment. And this kind of practice of allowing yourself is basically the practical way in which you become more sensitive to what you want, and therefore you start to kind of like heal yourself, right? Because essentially you need to think of life in terms of exploration and then restoration, right? When you look at life in like kind of like from a bird's eye view, from like a big picture perspective, it's like every day you need your kind of explorative activities, and then at the end of the day, for example, you need to have your restorative activities, right? You need to grow, but then you also need to heal, right? And so and this is what allowing yourself is like. That's basically the kind of restorative component of that, right? So like, to give you some examples, like, so let's say you're hungry, right, or it's dinner time, right, or you're at the grocery store or whatever. Like, allowing yourself that paradigm would like means that, you know, you decide to buy food that you actually want to eat, right? And the thing about this is that you might actually want to eat something that is quote unquote unhealthy, right? So say for example you want to eat like donuts, right, as an example. You know, it's quote unquote unhealthy, right? But like the kind of decision of allowing yourself, like the act of allowing yourself means that you do whatever it is that you want to do, right, in that moment, right? And so you might want to question that, like, that's okay, you know, like question, do I actually want to eat donuts in this moment? But then if the answer that comes back is yes, you say, okay, I'm going to buy some donuts, right? And the more that you do this, right, well, the more that you kind of notice yourself kind of becoming less stressed out, right? Because the kind of paradigm whereby, you know, you're trying to like force yourself to be healthy, or whatever it is, actually introduces stress into your body, right? It introduces stress into your system. But the act of allowing yourself means that you're kind of doing something that's in alignment with with how your body feels, and that de-stresses you, right? It heals you, right? And so the important thing about this, right, is not what you end up eating, or indeed whatever it is you decide to do. I use diet as an example, but this applies to anything, right? This applies to everything. The important thing is not necessarily what you do or don't do, right? It is the practice of aligning yourself with your desires and your genuine emotional needs, right? That is the important practice behind, this kind of eating, like eating or doing whatever it is you want, right? And this empowers you. It proves to you that you can trust your body's desire, right? Because most of us do not trust our body's desire, and that's why most of us are starved, neurotic, jittery. It's because we don't know how to heal ourselves, because we don't trust that whatever it is that our body needs, the way that we feel, is actually in line with itself trying to heal itself, right? And this actually extends. So this extends to like addictions and self-destructive behavior, right? You might view something as like a bad kind of decision, like for example playing video games or gambling or whatever it is, like you might or like watching shows, you might consider something to be bad, but like I said in the video, I forget which one it is exactly, but in one of the videos I talked about how the addictive behavior is actually the body's attempt at healing itself, right? There's some other thing in life, whether that be an unsatisfactory life experience, unsatisfactory relationship, unsatisfactory career, whatever it is, right? Something in life that introduces stress and trauma, and then like the kind of addictive behavior, the escapism, occurs because the body is trying to heal itself, right? So it's actually the escapism thing is actually the body's desire trying to come out. Excuse me, but it's actually in like a destructive, not healthy way, you could say, right? But that may be the case, right? But in order to kind of heal that, if we kind of want to heal that, then we need to basically start to allow our bodies, right? So the problem in that case is not necessarily the addictive behavior. It's whatever else in life that is leaving us, dissatisfied, right? That is the stuff that we need to deal with, right? And there's all like designing a life of freedom and do what you love. That's another video that I did. Those were the videos that I did. That's kind of big picture thing. But like when it comes to restoring ourselves, we have to learn to allow ourselves, right? And that's what I mean by that, right? The important thing is not what you do. And you start to realize this. It doesn't really matter, really, because I myself spent the longest time hating myself secretly that I still played video games, that I still watched stupid videos on the internet, that I still ate junk food that was really bad for me, or whatever it is, right? But eventually I was like, well, it feels good when I do those things. So there has to be a reason why I do those things, and now I don't resist it anymore, and I feel infinitely better. And do you know what? The addictiveness of those activities disappears, because this is what you have to understand, right? And you understand this when you get to the other side of things, right? You develop perspective by doing this. You realize that what you need changes, right? And the reason like you have this like self-destructive addictive behavior is because like you've starved yourself to the extent where your body like is like, I just want like the quickest, most kind of instant gratification thing. And that's what happens, right? But then as you slowly allow yourself, even initially just through like, the quote unquote self-destructive or unhealthy behavior, your body starts to heal itself and become healthy, and therefore what your body wants then changes, right? Maybe you'll finally organically cure your addiction of like escapism or junk food or whatever it is, right? And if that doesn't happen straight away, that's fine as well. That just means that like there's this whole life thing going on, right, which is integrated, right? Life is like this thing, this kind of like constant kind of exchange of differing areas, right? It's all kind of connected, right? And so like it just means that like you just need to kind of like keep growing and growing, and then there will come a point when you will organically grow out of the addictive behavior, right? But the whole point is to learn how to allow yourself, right? To allow your desire, because your desire, your emotional needs are what your body needs in order to heal itself, so that you can feel empowered and strong, right? So cool. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about. The other thing is taking ownership of your experiences, right? So what happens when you can't allow yourself, or when you find yourself in a situation that is kind of outside of your comfort zone? Or indeed, like, well, this also ties into allowing yourself, right? It means like, whatever it is that happens, roll with it, is essentially what this means, right? So, going back to, the allowing yourself thing, if you're kind of feeling a bit shitty and you want to eat like donuts, that's my kind of go-to choice, for example. So like, if you want to eat donuts and you're like, oh man, like I'm hungry, I haven't eaten yet, I need to eat something. I want to eat donuts, but I've eaten donuts like 3 times in a row. Like, do I go with it, right? And you may decide against it. You may be like, fuck it, I'm going to use my willpower in this situation. I'm going to eat a salad, right? Or I'm going to eat something that's healthier. But if you indeed decide to eat the donuts again, own it. And this is kind of like the second part of what I was talking about in terms of addictive behavior, right? It's like, whatever it is that you're doing, or whatever decision you make, whether or not it's aligned with what you want, or like the thing that you've initially wanted, or indeed whether or not it's healthy or unhealthy for you, like just like be like, okay, this is my decision. It's cool. Like, it's not going back and second guessing yourself and doubting yourself and hating yourself and like, man, I shouldn't have made that decision, or like, that kind of feeling of internal conflict when you're like, fuck, I shouldn't have made that decision, but then I don't know, like, it's just being like, okay, well, I decided to eat donuts again. Maybe you do hate yourself for it. I mean, like, yeah, that was kind of a shitty decision, I'm gonna be honest. But at the same time, like, hey, donuts are delicious. Like, donuts are sweet, they taste good. It's fine, I decided to play video games instead of like writing my book, like, I could have probably written quite a lot, and that sucks, but like, hey, you know what? Playing this game is fun, and until I stop having fun with it, I'm going to play it and just relax, I'm going to take this time to relax now, and then be okay with it. It's essentially developing flexibility in your decision making, right? Because sometimes, like, decisions backfire, decisions kind of are hazy, like you kind of change your mind in the last minute, or you change your mind several times. But even that is kind of a result of you kind of just being wishy-washy about things. But like, if you just kind of sit down and be like, okay, well, you know, like, it's not ideal. Like, it wasn't what I expected, but I'm going to make the most of this, right? If I decided to do the work, I'll do the work, right? If I decided to piss about and, like, to relax and enjoy myself, I'm going to do that, right? And also, another thing that kind of comes from this allowing yourself and also taking ownership of your experiences and your decisions is that you start to realize that, like, nothing is a big deal. Like, everything has its start and finish point, right? Because, like, when you haven't thought about this, because this is kind of like a conscious way of like, living your day-to-day life, right? It's like, just being like, okay, well, I'm going to be like, I need to make a decision, I'll make it, and then I'll own it, right? That's kind of, it takes a bit of consciousness to do that, right? It takes a bit of kind of experience. But before you do all of that, before you even really consciously think about this kind of thing, you're like, oh man, I eat donuts. That means I'm a bad person, period. That means I'm going to be fat, period. Or like, oh, I'm doing work. It's good, but I feel shitty. I'm going to feel shitty for the rest of my life, right? And this actually isn't something that I've heard anyone else say, but this is something that's true for me, like, or was true for me, and I'm kind of like working myself out of it, right? This is still a work in progress for myself. I'm still in that transition, but I'm sharing with you guys. Yeah, you know, like, you feel like everything feels so kind of like final. Like, it's like, oh man, I made this decision. That means I'm a bad person, or like, you know, oh man, I'm gonna be fat, or like unhealthy, or stupid forever, unsuccessful. But no, like, what it means is you do the thing that you need to do, and then you move on. Like, that's what happens when you start to trust in your body. You start to trust in experience. It's that, like, you realize that it's okay, that, like, you can trust that your body will tell you exactly what you need to do and the extent to which you need it without you even thinking about it, right? Life becomes so easy and intuitive and awesome when you just, like, start to allow yourself and also to own your experiences, right? And then, like, life starts to become like, it's no longer this kind of minefield where you have to kind of every day, like, think really hard about what the fuck you need to do, otherwise you're going to fail. No, it becomes this very intuitive thing where you're just going through day to day. You trust, and therefore you feel safe in what your body tells you that it wants, you know, out of life right in this instant. And, you know, and everything's cool, and like you start to become like this relaxed motherfucker, you know. People then, like, they kind of feel that off of you, like, they like, and it's like, it's such an amazing thing to teach to other people and to tell the people. It's like, you know, well, I just do what my body tells me to do, right? I trust in it, and it never leads me astray. Yes, I make mistakes. Yes, like, sometimes I have to trust in my mind, because a little too much self-indulgence can be bad sometimes, especially when it starts to become like a self-hating thing, or like a thing when you're, say, in low vibration, and like and then you become addicted to it, because, like, you know, there are certain things you have to do. Like, there's a thing I call going back to basics, where if I'm doing something but I feel shitty, like, for example, like, I'm eating junk food but it's actually making me feel shitty, or I'm watching videos and I feel shitty, I'm not actually enjoying it, then, like, I do something where I go out and I jog, or like I go out and I force myself to, like, I force myself to go out, or like I force myself to eat healthy foods, even if it's not in alignment with how I feel, right? You know, there's things like that you have to do sometimes. That's just life, right? You know, on the flip side, sometimes, like, a bit too much self-indulgence, particularly, well, yeah, you know, like, particularly when you're not going, like, when you're just, like, feeling shitty, and you're no longer kind of even connected with how you feel, you're just like trying to your best to escape how you feel, like, you know, that kind of thing. You need to kind of, like, okay, I'm just gonna go out and take a walk. You need to have, like, logical precautions against that. But, you know, again, it's a balance. In practice, it's a balance. But in this video, I wanted to give you the perspective from, you know, like, being insensitive to energy, because that's the majority of people. Like, they're kind of stuck in their heads, and they think that the way to approach daily life is to like force yourself, and then they kind of rebound, and it's like, why the fuck did it fail? And this is the reason why, right? So cool. That's my message in this video. Hope it's been helpful. Yeah, start to practice this in your own life, and work it out. Live life, live your own life. Live life according to how you feel, and also, but also, to the extent that you get things done. And everything will be cool, right? So cool. I'm gonna do probably more videos around this topic, because ultimately, yeah, it's the kind of, well, at the very least, it's something that I'm currently resonating with. That's really important to me, that I realized. You know, but yeah. In any case, that was my message. I hope it was helpful, and I will catch you guys in the next entry. Peace out.